In this video, we're going to show you how to install wheel cylinders on your Toyota Tundra located behind the rear brake drums. Using a 21mm socket, loosen and remove the lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, grab your wheel, remove it, and set it aside. With the back wheel removed, you want to go ahead and pull off your brake drum. Slide that off and set it aside. And right here is your wheel cylinder that we're going to be replacing. And we want to go ahead and make sure that our brake shoes can pull away from this unit. We're going to use our tool here to go ahead and separate the spring from the rear shoe. With that spring released, we have our adjuster that's free. We can go ahead and pop the adjuster out if we want. Set that aside. We can pull our spring out as well. You can see that our shoes have now separated, which is fine. That's exactly what we want. Let's go ahead and relocate to the back side. It's going to be 2 bolts on the back side and a hard brake line that attaches to this on the back side of the backing plate. On the back side here, we have the hard line right here that goes into the back of the wheel cylinder. And right here, we have the rear ABS speed sensor. Now, we did spray this down with some penetrant to try and lubricate this here to get this clip off. You're going to push in on this little spring tab here and pull the connector off. Sometimes you can use a pair of hose pliers to gently pinch that and wiggle this harness off and pull that off, set it to the side. That's going to give us a little bit of access to the 2 bolts here holding the wheel cylinder to the backing plate. On the back side here, we're going to use our 10mm wrench on the hard line. I want to go ahead and loosen this. Now you want to pay attention to when you're loosening this nut here. You want to make sure that the hard line does not spin with the nut. And ours is moving a little bit with it, so we need to either apply a little bit of heat or some spray lube to it, because what may happen is that this hard line can twist and snap, and then you're going to have to replace the hard line as well. So you want to try and prevent that from happening. So we get that moving. We're now going to introduce some more spray lube to this here, some rust penetrant. And continue to work this carefully. Now you are going to lose some brake fluid from this here, so it's always good to have either a catch can or a bucket underneath to catch that fluid. And we're able to spin that nut pretty good. I'm going to continue to work it. Spring it as we go. And once we get this line disconnected, we have 2 10mm bolts. There's one right here, and there's one over to the other side of it. I want to go loosen and remove those. Now, if you have to, you could add heat to that, spray it with some rust penetrant, whatever you need to do to go ahead and get those out. Here we go. We have our hard line separated. Now we're going to try and use our 10mm socket here. Get that one loose. I'm going to go to the other side here, see if we can break that one loose as well. Perfect. Now as you remove these 2 10mm bolts, the wheel cylinder is going to separate from the backing plate and come off the front side. You want to inspect these bolts. You may have to replace those. All right, go ahead and remove that bolt. Here we have it. Our next step is inspect that backing plate, wipe it down. Make sure that it is a solid backing plate. If the backing plate is rotted, you need to replace that at this point. On our wheel cylinder right here, we have a rubber plug. We need to pop that off. And we're going to feed this in and feed the hard line into the wheel cylinder. And while we have some flexibility, we want to go ahead and get this threaded into this. So ideally, you want to go ahead and make sure that it's free spinning. It's going to make it a lot easier so you don't have to force that hard line to move it around. We're not going to snug it down. We do want to get it in almost all the way. Even if you snug it and then back it off a tiny bit, that's totally fine. There we go, just backed it off a tiny bit. Our next step, go ahead and line up your bolts. Get that started on that wheel cylinder. We have that bolt started. Get the one on the other side started a few threads. Once you have them started, we'll go ahead and zip those down. You want to go ahead and snug those down. Do the same on the other side. Once a bolt bottoms out, good quarter turn. Now we can finish tightening down the hard line. Once that bottoms out, you want to give that a little bit extra. Snug that down. Use some spray solvent and let's clean up the back side. Give that a wipe down. We're going to install our spring here. Small portion of the spring towards the rear. So we should have the hook. It's going to come around the back side of the shoe. And right up here, there's a triangular notch. We need to put our spring through the back side and into that. You can bring this up and over. Get the shoe lined up in the notch inside of the wheel cylinder. We now want to install our adjuster wheel here. We want this to go around the shoe as well as it does the e-brake component. Line that up. I'm going to use my tool here, hook it onto the spring. And we need to push this over and into the triangular notch on this shoe here. So we have the adjuster lined up, our spring installed. The shoe itself is inside the wheel cylinder. Now this is going to require a little bit of adjustment when we go to install our drum. But at this point here, we're all assembled here. Let's go into the back side and we're going to bleed the wheel cylinder. Now on the back side here, we have the bleeder screw. We're going to use a 10mm wrench. And we're going to open that up, turn that counterclockwise. Now what we're looking for here, we're going to watch for the brake fluid to come through, fill up the wheel cylinder, and then come out through the bleeder screw. Probably going to see a couple bubbles popping out there, and we want to see a steady stream of fluid coming out through that bleeder. It could take a couple moments for that to happen. All right, so right now we have a solid stream of fluid coming out. We're going to go ahead and close this up. Snug that down gently. Now we're going to go ahead and use some spray solvent. Clean this up. And give us a quick wipe down. Now with this system here bled on the back side, we can now go ahead and install the electrical connector. Line that up. Press that on. You're going to hear and feel it snap into place. Go ahead and take that brake drum. Now if it doesn't fit on right away, it could be just that the brake shoe itself needs to be shifted just a tiny bit. Just keep on working that until you get that squared away, and then your drum slides on. And slide the drum on. Now at this point, let's go ahead and check the fluid up at the master cylinder reservoir. You're going to locate your reservoir here. Before you open up the cap, go ahead and spray it down with some solvent. We want to clean this up. We don't want to have any debris fall down inside that reservoir. Then we can go ahead and peel that cap off. Set that aside. And we want to fill it up to our max line right here. You can see our fluid level is down a little bit. Go ahead and fill it up to the max line. Now at this point here, you want to hop into the vehicle and you want to pump up the brakes. You want to make sure that brake pedal is nice and firm. For any reason, if that brake pedal is not firm, you want to go ahead and re-bleed that brake system. If that does not give you a firm pedal, you want to go ahead and start the complete brake bleeding process for the entire vehicle. Move to the top side. Going to pull up on this rubber cap. Pull it up. Set that aside. And inside here is a little screen. And there's a little tray here. So we're going to go ahead and pull that out. Go ahead and let that drain out. And go ahead and set that aside. The next step we want to do is remove the fluid that is in the reservoir here. I'm going to go ahead and use a little bucket that I had fabricated here. And we're going to use an evacuation tool or a tool like this here and going to suck out the fluid. Just want to try and evacuate as much fluid as possible. I'm going to drop our screen back down inside, and that actually rotates. Get that engaged, and we're going to pop our cap back on. Now at this point here, we're going to start our brake bleeding process. Now the process is starting at the right rear. We're going to proceed to the left front. Our next wheel would be the left rear and finishing up with the right front wheel. After the first two, we want to go ahead and top off that master cylinder with brake fluid. Now we have this bottle here, and up on the top here we have our 10mm bleeder screw. Now we also have someone up inside the vehicle, and their job is to go ahead and pump up that brake pedal and hold pressure while we go ahead and open up this bleeder, purging out any air. All right, go ahead and pump up the brake pedal. All right, while they're holding pressure. We're going to open this up. And we're following our hose here to get any air out of it. And then we'll close it up. Okay, pump it up. Okay, open that up again. And you can see we're definitely getting some air out of that. Okay, pump it up. Okay, repeat. And at this point here, we're getting a solid stream of fluid. We're going to do one more time. Pump it up, please. Solid stream of fluid. That's exactly what we're looking for. So go ahead and snug down that bleeder screw on the back. Remove that port. And don't forget to spray this down with some solvent and get rid of that residual brake fluid there. Now if your bleeder screw has the rubber cap, you want to go ahead and pop that on there now. Let's go ahead and move to the left front. Now here we are at the left front. Our bleeder screw is located right here at the top of the caliper. Go ahead and put our hose on here. All right, go ahead and pump up the brakes. And while they're holding that, let's go ahead and open this up. And you see we got a little bit of air out of that. So close it up and pump it up again. There we go, starting to get a solid stream of fluid without air. Go ahead and pump it up. And that's exactly what we want right there. So let's go ahead and close this up, snug down that bleeder screw. I'm going to go ahead and remove our hose here. Now that we've topped off our reservoir here, we're going to go ahead and proceed to the left rear and then wrap up with the right front. Now if that brake pedal still feels mushy, you want to repeat this brake bleeding process on those 4 steps. If it still feels mushy at that point, you want to go ahead and use the scan tool to go ahead and see if we can activate that ABS and work that air out of the system. After you've bled the brakes and the pedal feels good, go ahead and install your wheels and go for a road test. Take your wheel, line it up on the studs. Go ahead and get all of your lug nuts started by hand, and then we'll go ahead and snug them down. Go ahead and torque down your lug nuts to 83 foot-pounds. We're going to do this in a crisscross pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.